Hello everyone, I'm Carius, and today I'm going to be talking about hyper rounds. So these exist now for some reason, and if you've been paying attention to any of the other Nerf creators and people in the hobby, you probably can guess my thoughts on them. I think they're pretty garbage. So Hyper is Nerf's latest half-baked cash grab that is another one of Hasbro's little tantrums where their competitors are making better blasters for less money using the same kind of ammo. So instead of trying to step up their game and try to compete, the #1 blaster brand would rather pick up their ball and go home and just make new proprietary ammo types that aren't compatible with anything else and rush out a few half-assed blasters. They're just, let's take the basic features you'd expect out of a rival blaster and scale them down for Hyper. So Hyper rounds are like tiny rival rounds, except made out of this dense rubbery stuff. The only real positive I can say about them is that they're extremely durable, but Rival's already the most durable ammo Hasbro makes, so it's not a huge selling point. And with the smaller size, you get the advantage of storing more ammo in a smaller space, but that extra capacity you get for having the smaller round is offset by the fact that they're rubbery nonsense that's going to gum up any kind of mechanism you put them in. And they get around that by having a weird agitator in the Rush 40 and by not shipping the blasters with enough ammo to actually fill it up, because if you put 40 rounds in a Rush 40, it starts to get a little jammy, and if you try to put anything else, any more than 40 in there, it's just not going to feed very well. And for some reason they didn't even bother putting hop-up in it, which is bizarre. So something that has the potential to be more accurate and possibly perform better than Rival definitely isn't out of the box with any of their Hyper blasters, so it's kind of poorly thought out. I've experimented with them out of slingshots, and I got them up to 170 FPS, and they really veer to the side violently. Without any kind of reliable hop-up, these things have no reasonable accuracy to speak of. So we end up with an ammo type that is just slightly larger than Nerf darts, so it's not interesting in any kind of like cross-compatible way where you could try to mod older blasters to use it. You can shove a Hyper round into a half-inch barrel, but it is so tight that a blaster will not be able to push it out. It just gets stuck. You just basically are putting a cork in it. You get a little larger and then you can start shooting them, but not very well. Any kind of long barrel is going to give these trouble because they're so rubbery. And out of flywheel systems or anything that's really optimized for them, they're not doing anything that Rival doesn't already do. And so you end up with this ammo type that's kind of stuck in this weird area of being vastly inferior to darts for everything except capacity, and being kind of the same as Rival for everything except capacity. You get into this realm of, okay, the only reason Hyper exists is so you can fit more rounds into the same space. You can fill a pistol-sized blaster with 40 rounds, assuming they actually give you 40 rounds. And as far as the kind of Nerf and foam hobby blaster tag space goes, the closer we get to paintball or airsoft, the less interesting the hobby becomes, in my opinion. Like, there's always going to be people trying to push it as far as possible and get the highest ammo capacity and highest FPS and everything, but part of what makes Nerf Wars so fun is the inherent limitations in the blasters and the ammo. Your shots count a lot more, and the fact that a lot of it's flying slow enough that you could actually see the dart coming and dodge it, especially with Rival and even Hyper rounds. And if you're going to do something like a proton pack with Rival, you've got a big old backpack or some kind of crazy monstrosity that makes you a bigger target, there's a bit of a cost for that kind of capacity. And you're more of a flamethrower than a minigun. You know, your range is effectively half that of people using darts, and you have a very different niche in the game that kind of adds its own thing to it and is fun. And you have all these rival balls kind of past 30 feet. They're just slowly floating towards you and are pretty easy to dodge, and it creates really fun and exciting moments of like weaving in and out of the wall of balls that some Prometheus is throwing at you. But the more we get into stuff like this, assuming this ammo was actually being shot at a decent FPS and the blasters were doing a lot more than Hyper is actually doing, you just end up shooting gel balls at each other, really. It's not much different, and it's just not nearly as fun, in my opinion. It's kind of trying to push the hobby more towards the airsoft spray and pray. I have a magazine that's 5,000 rounds, and I'm just going to shoot in your general direction and hope you get hit. And that's just not particularly interesting. Now, if these weren't so rubbery and were a little more conducive to feeding or like magazine systems, it'd be really cool to like stack 3 of these in a magazine and have a bunch of like triple shots that you could throw into a sniper type blaster to get a shotgun going. And you can actually do that kind of thing with like the Vulcan foam practice paintballs that are 50 caliber, which are just kind of a superior ammo type to this in every way. So I don't really have much nice to say about Hyper. The blasters themselves have like they're a nice build quality, but that's about all they've got going for them. And it's nice that they are fluorescent, so they're a little easier to find, but they're still incredibly bouncy. They're going to go wherever they feel like, and you're going to lose them very quickly. Not to mention they're going to immediately pick up all kinds of dirt and grime and hair and dust and whatever. I'm just thoroughly unimpressed. I can't seem to see Hyper as anything more than Rival's version of Ultra Darts. It's just another poorly thought out cash grab by Hasbro to try to make some proprietary ammo that will give them a quick buck while other people can't copy it. And Hyper isn't as bad as Ultra, obviously, but it's got the same kind of stink to it. It is just definitely Hasbro throwing a fit over their competitors making better stuff with the same ammo for cheaper. So they're making just a bunch of poorly executed products that nobody in the hobby space is really gonna have any reason to be interested in. They're just marketing to kids and parents who don't know any better and trying to make a quick buck off of them. It's just like Elite 2.0, it's just like Ultra. I'm hoping the Mega XL stuff will at least be fun just because it's so gimmicky and dumb. And since the ammo's so large, it kind of has to have a little bit of modding potential. But Hyper is just really more of the same from Hasbro. It's just trying to pass off a half-baked cash grab as something new and innovative. Let's take a look at the weight of them. So we got a Hyper round weighing in at 1.4 grams. Yeah, 1.4. Compared to a Rival round, which is a little heavier, but not by much. Hyper rounds are definitely way denser, yeah. See, a Rival round we got coming in at 2 grams compared to 1.4, and these are way smaller than a Rival round. So theoretically they would fly better, but you'd need a blaster that was actually designed to do something with this round, and none of the Hyper offerings from Hasbro really do anything special. The performance out of the box is really just like Rival, except your ammo is smaller and bouncier and less reliable. Compared to a dart, half dart's usually about 1 gram. This one's 0.9 grams for Adventure Force Pro Dart. It's like 0.95 closer. Yeah. So they're a little bit heavier than a Nerf dart. Even heavier than this Ultra Dart, I believe. It's styrofoam. Are actually the same weight as an Ultra Dart. They're spiritual cousins in that way. In more ways than one, I would say. So Hyper is really just big old half-baked disappointment. Because Rival's pretty much at the sweet spot of an ammo that is spherical, so you can use hoppers and high-capacity systems, but it's still large enough that it's not a huge pain to pick up off the field afterwards, and you don't have so much capacity that you're just making a huge mess for everybody and hazard for animals to try to eat and choke on. And when you get smaller than that and try to go higher capacity, really just end up pushing it into paintball or airsoft territory where it's barely even practical to be picking all of these hyper rounds up. If you were to have something like a Hyper Prometheus that could hold probably 1,000 rounds, and at that point you're just kind of littering and causing a problem, because that's one of the big things that separates Nerf from the other stuff, is that you can actually do it in a public park and you pick up all your ammo so that you're not littering and everyone's happy and you don't get kicked out of the park for making a huge mess and being environmentally questionable. But Hyper kind of screws that up if it's widely used. And I just think Rival does everything that Hyper does, but in a way that is better thought out and better for the hobby in general. It's just Ultra 2.0 as far as I'm concerned. And Ultra's not even good enough for its own video. I mean, they actually painted both sides of the blaster. That's a change. The Rush 40 is not even a terrible blaster, it's just like kind of handicapped by the ammo that it is shooting. And they've done a decent job of getting this to feed these rubbery, weird rounds, but like, I just think this ammo by nature is doomed to be annoying and unreliable and kind of a mess. It just feels like all the rest of Hasbro's recent offerings. Rushed, half-baked, and just uninspired. Just thoroughly disappointing and just downright lame. So yeah, those are my thoughts on Hyper. It's a half-baked cash grab by Hasbro, but even if it were good, I don't think it would be a direction that would be particularly healthy or interesting for the hobby, and I just don't have really anything positive to say about it. Alrighty, just a quick video, kind of complaining about Hyper and getting my thoughts out there. That's all I've got for today. The next video will be something significantly more fun, and on that note, thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next video, and until then, this has been Carius reminding you to have fun and not do weird half-assed tantrums like Hasbro. But hey, at least there's one cool thing they did with Hyper ammo. They're fluorescent. Let's see, under black light, a regular Rival round and a Hyper round. It's one cool thing they did with Hyper. Hello. Big yawn.